Well, hey guys, I'm just here with Totoro, drinking some Javalia espresso with one of those packets of the Four Sigmatics Chaga Elixir. I'm just getting hooked on those very quickly. Every morning I have one packet of that or one of the other mushroom blends in my coffee, and it really just enriches the experience, and I'm really liking it quite a bit. It just makes the coffee taste somehow bolder and thicker. But doesn't alter the flavor. It's so good. And of course, Totoro is happy here to see everybody. So, I always get lots of questions from you all in the comments. Can I address scars more in depth? Can I talk about ways to prevent scars, how to get rid of scars? I always get questions, what are my thoughts on X, Y, and Z scar cream? So I wanted to do some videos for you all talking really in depth about scars, scarring, and different types of treatments for scars to give you all some information and things to understand about why a scar forms and really why scar creams are not really likely to work at all. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Andrea. I am a dermatologist, and my YouTube channel is largely skincare content as well as fun vlogs of my life, lots of plant-based recipes thrown in there. So if that type of thing is of interest to you, then stick around. But I like to do some videos coming up all about scars and scar treatment. So today I thought I would just kind of overview scars for you all. I've done some scar videos in the past for acne scars. So I just want to kind of give some basic information about scars in general, and then in later videos I'm going to go into more in depth about different types of treatments, lasers for scars, procedures for scars, and things to do to prevent scars. So stick around for that if for those of you who are asking. So by definition, a scar is a fibrous process in which collagen is laid down abnormally in the deeper layers of our skin in response to either a wound, prior injury, or inflammation in the skin. And I think it's very important for you going in to understand and wrap your head around the concept that a scar, for the most part, is a permanent outcome. All right, so I tell you that because there are so many creams and gimmicky things out there, serums, claims of creams working to get rid of scars, and they simply do not work. They simply are not effective. It undermines the true pathophysiology of scar formation to make that claim. Your body is like, not getting rid of this. So don't fall for scar creams. I know many of them contain onion extract, and if anything, these are just irritating to the skin and can cause problems down the road. So just getting into the video from the get-go, do know that scar creams are largely gimmicky, and really there isn't a scar cream out there that's going to get rid of a true scar. Scarring affects about 30% of people with acne, and there are a variety of different ways that acne can scar. I have another video already on acne scarring, so if that is you, check it out, but I will summarize a few of those points in this video. But there are also scarring, scars that occur obviously after you have an injury. After surgery, it's not uncommon to have a scar. That is actually usually a complication that you are made well aware of can and will possibly occur before you even go into the surgery as part of your informed consent process that scarring is possible. Predicting a scar and how people are going to scar can be difficult. Certain ethnic groups are more likely to form thicker, larger scars known as keloids or hypertrophic scars. And also the area of the body where the injury occurred can kind of predict the likelihood of developing a scar. Areas where there is a lot of tension, for example, in the middle of the chest, are more likely to form thicker scars. Also, the age of the individual really influences the likelihood of forming a scar. It's one of the things it's actually one of the things that we have to look forward to and to sort of embrace as we get wiser or older, is that as we mature, we form scars less robustly, and so we tend to have a better aesthetic outcome from healing. FYI. So, you know, that being said, if you're somebody who scars easily, you know, having a procedure done when you are younger, your scar may be a little bit thicker and more problematic and apparent than when you are in your later years. So that is something to understand and wrap your head around. But healthcare providers, you know, dermatologists, plastic surgeons, healthcare providers in general are very, very, very sensitive to the fact that scars have great potential to profoundly impact the emotional well-being of the individual with the scar. There are many studies out there and different diseases with scarring, different, surgical journals looking at impact of scars in different locations on an individual's overall well-being. It can be, and often is, quite profound. So we take it very, very seriously. No one should go through life feeling poorly about themselves, not living up to their utmost potential because of a scar. So healthcare providers take every measure possible to minimize the risk of scarring with non-elective procedures and of course with elective procedures as well. And they take quite a bit of time in educating you when you're considering an elective procedure or any procedure about the true risk of a scar, and trying to give you some expectations going in of what the scar might look like. Unfortunately, scarring is not always planned. Sometimes we can form a scar from an injury that we had, a car accident. It can be a painful reminder of a prior trauma, a past, just terrible emotional experience, and can continue to serve as a reminder of that. And so it's something that we take very, very seriously. So with all that being said about how impactful a scar is on an individual's emotional well-being, it's not surprising to me that cosmetic companies and, people jump on the idea of trying to sell you a scar cream. I mean, they're kind of almost preying on you and your sort of vulnerable state here, trying to, out of desperation, trying to take measures to improve the appearance of a scar. A true scar, I will reiterate, is permanent, and there is no cream that is going to take it away. All right, so that is misconception number one that continues to pop up in the comments about scar creams, onion extract. There are a ton of them. Any scar cream out there, as far as getting rid of a scar, it's a gimmick, okay? It is a gimmick. A second misconception, however, particularly with people suffering from acne, is differentiating between scar and actually post-inflammatory changes, specifically post-inflammatory color changes. I have several videos on each of these conditions, but whenever there's inflammation or a wound or injury in the skin, a lot of the pigment and color just kind of gets wonky, right? It leaks out all over the place, can leave a dark stain. Sometimes the melanocytes get a little stunned and you have a kind of delay in pigment production, so you can have a light stain. Alternatively, the blood vessels are kind of coming in, trying to heal everything, perfuse the area, get everything back together, rebuild new structures. And with those blood vessels coming in, the healing spot can look red and persistently red for quite some time. So these three things that I'm referring to, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, post-inflammatory hypopigmentation or light spots, and post-inflammatory erythema or red spots. These three conditions are all a reflection of kind of the mess of healing up a wound, and they are, for the most part, not permanent. They can stick around for a long time, several months, upwards to years, and they can, just like a true scar, can and do profoundly impact emotional well-being, in that they can drastically alter the appearance of the individual's skin. So much so that, it's devastating enough to go through a disease like acne, but to have it come under good control and still be left with something disfiguring, it can really, really, really be frustrating for the individual. I have a video on post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation or dark spots that I'll list down below. I also have a video on post-inflammatory erythema that I will list down below. As far as post-inflammatory hypopigmentation or the light spots, there are fewer things that can be done, fewer creams and things targeting those light spots. A true scar is a persistent alteration in the skin that occurs deep down in the skin, in the dermis. And there are a variety of different types of scars and morphologies or shapes of scars. Acne, for example, there are a variety of different types of scars that people with acne can be left with. Ice pick scars are little tiny scars that look exactly like somebody has picked your face with a sharp ice pick. Whenever I hear that, it always reminds me of that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer character. Yukon Cornelius, I always think of that with the ice pick. All right, it's a deep, narrow pit. Then there are rolling scars, which are kind of broader depressions with sort of sloping edges, less well defined. There are boxcar scars that have very sharp defined borders and they are depressed. And then there are also atrophic scars, which are just sort of like flat areas. I often see these in people on the cheeks, sometimes on the upper back. There can be some atrophic scarring. Sometimes it can almost be like a divot in the skin. If you previously had a big acne cyst that was deep down in the skin and that, resolves, there's absence of dermis and it's just kind of plumped down there, okay? There is not a cream that's going to rectify that. There's not a cream that's going to rebuild that. And oral collagen supplements are not going to restructure that in any manner, okay? That is another gimmick. The oral collagen supplements for scarring, no. That's not going to rectify that or prevent that from happening. Then lastly, the other type of scarring in acne in particular is something called a hypertrophic scar or a thick, lumpy scar. These often occur on the upper back. They'll be on the jawline, unfortunately. And so those can also occur. In each of these 5 different types of acne scars, there are a variety of targeted treatments that can be performed, largely procedural by a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon that can help and lead to improvement of the appearance of these scars. All right, so in future videos, I can talk more about treatments for acne scars, but some examples of treatments that I do have videos on, let's say for ice pick scars, there are things like dermabrasion that can be performed that can lightly resurface the skin. There are various laser procedures, namely laser resurfacing, can help that also look a little bit better. Sometimes actually the dermatologist can take a little tiny punch biopsy of normal skin from somewhere else on your face and graft it into the scar area, and that will take and improve the appearance of the scar. Then there is a procedure that works fairly well for ice pick scarring called a TCA cross. TCA cross is 50 to 60% TCA solution, which is just an acid, trichloroacetic acid, that is placed in the scar, and cross just stands for chemical reconstruction of scarred skin. All right, it doesn't mean that they're actually crossing anything out. That procedure is actually very, very inexpensive, easy to perform, and can be very effective for these little tiny the Yukon Cornelius ice pick scars. Subcision is another procedure that can be performed for these types of scars, wherein a little pair of tweezers, tweezer-like scissors, is used by the healthcare provider, and the area underneath the skin is kind of pulled apart, and some of that scar tissue is just sort of almost broken up a little bit mechanically, and it doesn't necessarily get rid of the scar, but it alters the shape of the scar and can kind of buoy up the surface of the skin, make it less apparent. That's called subcision. And then for certain scars, you can actually just cut them out. And after they cut them out, they can close the site in such a way that the surgical scar is less apparent, all right? They can hide the surgical scar somewhere like behind your jaw where you don't see it. Maybe that's more acceptable to you. The rolling scars that I mentioned, those can be plumped up with filler, cosmetic filler, soft tissue augmentation. I have a video on fillers, so if you're interested in that, check it out. Dermabrasion can sometimes be helpful for that. Microneedling can also be effective for rolling scars, atrophic scars, microneedling, I have a whole video on that as well. Microneedling is most safely and effectively performed by the dermatologist or healthcare provider. If you've seen my microneedling video, you know I'm not an advocate of the Derma Roller. I see a lot of adverse effects with that, skin infections namely, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, a lot of problems. So I do not recommend doing it at home, but it can be useful when performed by someone who knows what they're doing. The hypertrophic and thickened scars, there are a variety of things that can be injected into them. Potent steroids can actually atrophy the thick abnormal collagen and get it a little flatter. That is a very common way to go about treating thick hypertrophic scars. And in the early stages of healing acne, particular when the thickened scars are first beginning to form, a silicone gel dressing worn 24 hours a day for several months can actually reduce the formation of that thickened hypertrophic scar and can be effective. And then lastly, for the thick hypertrophic acne scars, they can be removed by surgery and replaced with a surgical scar that can be hidden somewhere else. Outside of the realm of acne scars, there are two types of scars that I get many questions about. Those are the types of scars that, for the most part, tend to occur more commonly in people of African, Afro-Caribbean descent, but can happen in anyone. And those are keloids. Keloids are a very, very thick, shiny, lumpy scar that forms in people who are predisposed to forming them. They're common. They can occur after piercing the ears, on the earlobes. They can occur in surgical sites on the front of the chest. They can occur in healing acne as well, on the back, face. And keloids, unlike thick hypertrophic scars, actually can extend outside of the area of initial injury. So for example, if you had a surgical scar that was a line, the keloid not only will be a thick scar within the line, but it will start to extend. It will actually creep out and extend outside of that line. Whereas a hypertrophic scar, by definition, stays within the area of injury. It does not creep outside. So they're different. And people can make both. Some people tend to make both, but some people tend more towards keloids. And so in future videos, I'd love to do some more talks specifically about how those scars should be approached or can be approached, and different treatments. You all ask me a lot of questions about those. As I said, the impact of a scar on an individual's emotional well-being is not to be taken lightly whatsoever. And I think where you really fall vulnerable is once the cosmetic and dietary supplements, which are territories that are not regulated in any manner, they sort of prey on that vulnerability and perpetuate false claims about products in order to sell you things that simply aren't going to work. Collagen supplements, dietary supplements, they don't get rid of a scar. They really don't. They don't prevent a scar. Ingesting collagen does not prevent your body from forming a scar and does not get rid of a scar. It is biologically impossible. It's not even plausible. Anyone out there with any background on science knows this. But if you're out there struggling, you're Googling things on the night, in the middle of the night, you just want the scar to be gone. You don't want to have to live with it anymore. That sounds tempting, but don't fall for it. Likewise, the onion extract creams, the essential oils, really, really don't fall for those. I mean, if anything, they are just more irritating. If you put irritating substances on your skin, that irritation actually can worsen the scar. It can lead to hyperpigmentation, overlying the scar, make it more apparent. Really, really just set you up for failure. The Derma Roller is another one that I would caution you against trying to take into your own hands. If you miss my microneedling video, check that out. But I do see a lot of adverse effects from people doing at-home derma rolling. I know some people have great results with it, but it's just too variable. And the risk of infection, the last thing that you want to do is get a skin infection on, around the area of a scar and just exacerbate that. Set yourself up for a potentially dangerous complication. It's simply not worth it. Discuss with your treating healthcare provider, is this type of scar one that's even amenable to microneedling? And then go and have the procedure done if it's of interest to you by someone who knows what they're doing. I can't overemphasize this enough to you all, is to not fall victim to some of these false claims as far as what creams can do and what supplements can do. It is an unregulated territory, and they're really just preying on you as someone who is vulnerable and afflicted with a scarring condition. So yes, I hope you all are enthusiastic for some more scar videos. Like I said, I plan to do videos on lasers for scars, different procedures for scars, scar prevention, tips to avoiding scars, post-surgical scars. So stay tuned for that. But if you like this video and it was helpful to you, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.